classmates. My name is Marian and I am responding to Edgar Ruiz's proposition that a wide age difference between partners results in a failed relationship. I agree to his claim, but he lacks valid evidence to be able to support his proposition. In his speech, he claims that couples with a big age gap have a significant variance in age will harm the attitudes of each in the relationship, that the difference in age will evidently make the relationship have dissimilar experiences, and that the older you are, the more significant goals and ambitions you have. His second claims and supporting secondary claims are relevant to the argument that relationships will most likely fail due to a big age difference, but there is no evidence proving that it is factually true. He is redundant and has generic claims that are based on personal beliefs and assumptions. To prove my proposition, I am going to present information that could have improved his argument by using statistical evidence, cited information, and multiple references. There are not any references used in his outline, and only one piece of information was cited. It was research from Emory University, and they said that the bigger the age gap in marriage, the more likely a couple is to divorce. But even that does not prove why a couple with a big age gap struggle. Statistical evidence that I found that could have helped his arguments was from an online site from The Atlantic. I found that 3% of couples are likely to get a divorce if they are a year apart, an 18% chance of couples are likely to get divorced if they are 5 years apart, and a 39% chance if they are likely to get divorced if they are 10 years apart, and a 95% chance if they are 20 years apart. When he addresses that a couple's individual attitudes reflect a relationship, he does not back it up with enough information. He makes a personal claim that people at different ages will want different things in their future, which is true, but he should have mentioned more. I found information from Beverly Hills psychotherapist Fran Wallfish. He says that partners from different generations may have different points of views in music, movies, politics, and friends. He also says that approaches to sex are different. Sex drives increase for middle-aged women, and sexual functions decrease for men, because they both experience physical effects of aging at different times. Barbie Adler, founder and president of Selective Search, says that it's not so much about the age as it's about the maturity level. For his second secondary claim, he pleads that people who are in a relationship with a contrasting age want to experience different things. Mr. Edgar Ruiz's claims very generic subjects, saying that each individual will have different priorities, interests, responsibilities, and will lack communication. I agree with all of these aspects, but I think he meant to be more specific. I found from marriage and family therapists that Dr. Sherry Myers states that a big issue for couples with a big age gap is mismatched life experiences and goals with marriage, children, lifestyle, and freedom. For instance, a younger woman will usually want children, and the older man may already have children and a family, and is probably thinking, been there, done that. Another instance is when a woman may be at the height of her career while her partner is near retirement. His final secondary claim remarks about how a couple with an odd age gap will have particular goals and ambitions, but his support for this claim was very similar to his last secondary claims. He just goes on talking about family, marriage, and their future as well. As I mentioned before, Mr. Edgar Ruiz's proposition that a large age difference between partners results in a failed relationships. I believe that his speech did not contain valid evidence or information to prove his argument correct. His argument was weak because he only had one-sided piece of information, and the rest were personal generic claims. He claims that these types of relationships are affected by different attitudes, experiences, goals, and ambitions. I hope you can agree with me that adding statistical information and cited information, as well as more information using further research could have helped his claim be stronger.
All right, Marian, there's a difference between an evaluation and a refutation, and I think that you've kind of fallen into the evaluation category rather than the refutation category. You're judging whether or not the argument was adequate, and then you are suggesting a number of ways that it could be improved, which would be great if you were doing a peer evaluation. Where are you? I know you're out there somewhere. There you are. Which would be great if you're doing the peer evaluation of the speech. The problem is you're supposed to be doing a refutation of the speech. Let me give you the analogy that I think illustrates this to some degree. If you're the defense attorney in the case and you're talking to in responding to the prosecution's case, you basically just said, the prosecution didn't prove my client guilty, let me do so for you. That is not a refutation, that you've in essence just given a better argument than the advocate gave. You have not refuted the argument that the advocate is presenting. Now, I thought that you did a really nice job finding good evidence on those points. In fact, if you had taken the topic and gave the argument that you just gave as a claim of fact speech, I think a lot of people would be sitting here going, okay, now if I had to refute that, how could I respond to it? That would be a lot more challenging. I especially like the evidence that you had from the Atlantic that talked about the different rates at which people divorce based on the ages that they have. And then you had good explanations from a variety of psychotherapists and marriage counselors who talked about why the very premises that the advocate talked about are true. And like I said, you gave better evidence than the advocate gave on those things. But that doesn't refute the claim, that just proves the claim. So, I kind of think you're missing the point of the exercise here. It's reasonably well organized. It follows the general issues that the advocate talked about. And I think you've got some good criticisms of the advocate's lack of information. And that's probably where you should have stopped on the argument and said, look, there's nothing that shows that this is true in the advocate's argument. This is an inference that they're drawing without any examples or illustrations except a hypothetical that's being presented here, and you could leave it at that. That probably would have been a more effective refutation. I appreciate the idea that you're trying to give a contrasting argument here, but like I said, I think it misses the point of the argument. If we were involved in a debate deciding what to do at the end of this argument, I think everybody would just say, well, don't marry somebody who's older than you, because that's going to be a problem. And everybody would agree with that. All right, thank you.